Welcome to More Precious Than Rubies, where we explore and celebrate the stories of women in our modern world. I'm Ariana, and in this special global season, we're exploring how women around the world are living out their callings in extraordinary ways. Today's guest is Dianne Sivulka, founder of Travel on Purpose, a full-service travel company that curates culturally immersive trips and connects travelers with organizations doing good around the world. These trips are designed to be more than a vacation. They're built around relationship, community connection, and global education. On top of that, Travel on Purpose donates 100% of its profits to its nonprofit partners worldwide. Dianne is passionate about travel and puts learning, especially from locals, at the forefront of every journey. Dianne, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We were talking about this before the episode and just how our relationship has kind of come to be. We actually met through Esta Tro, who, if you're a frequent listener of the podcast, you heard Esta talk about her organization that is in Africa. And we just got to see each other at Esta's fundraiser for her project as well. So that was such a fun connection there too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to have you talk about Travel on Purpose today. So to start out, can you maybe take a minute or a couple minutes and explain the value behind Travel on Purpose?
Sure. So the value behind Travel on Purpose is that we want trips to be a learning journey, a culturally immersive experience. We want to show up in countries with humility and with curiosity. Kind of like you would go as a guest in somebody's home. We want to show up in a way that respects their culture, their heritage, their traditions, and really is there to learn. And so we try to set aside things like comfort as much as we can and just go ready to experience whatever that destination has for us.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's cool that you talk about kind of putting aside a sense of comfort because as I mentioned in the intro, your goal isn't to have it be seen as primarily a vacation. It's more of a learning opportunity, right?
It is. It is. And it's, we walk a little bit of that fine line because it is a vacation too. I mean, people are signing up to do trips that are taking them to some of the world's most spectacular destinations. And we do love nice hotels.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? I mean, I'm basically designing the trip that I would want to go on. So
there you go.
We are staying in nice places, but it's really important to us that we keep the money in the local economy.
Yes.
So we're staying in boutique hotels. Sometimes they are historic properties that have been restored, but we're always looking for those unique places where we have a chance to support the local economy, get to know people. And so, we want to be comfortable, but at the same time, we also want to be okay to let go of some of our comforts. And so sometimes that's a little bit of a fine line. What does that exactly look like? In some of the destinations that we go to, giving up some of our comfort means that, maybe things aren't exactly as we expect them to be if we were at home.
Yeah.
But again, that is what it's like to be a guest in somebody else's house.
That is a very good point. And kind of on the line of how you're trying to cultivate an experience of learning as well, learning other people's culture. You say that travel is the best teacher. So what are the most important lessons that travel can teach each of us?
Oh, yeah. Travel can teach us a lot of things. I think that there is no substitution for an in-person experience. And you can read about places, which is good. You can watch documentaries, but there's no teacher like the travel experience, like the ability to actually step foot in those destinations. And I think what is especially meaningful as an educational experience is that we want to learn from local people. So when you go to a place and trips are set up with a lot of intentionality, then you have a chance to walk alongside a local historian, a local storyteller, go into somebody's house and learn their personal history and story. And so in those ways, it's such a rich educational experience, unlike anything that you can have if you don't actually go.
I mean, even practical things that we can learn traveling globally. when I started traveling globally for work, I noticed how quickly you learn patience, understanding, like even just getting through customs, also experiencing just how understanding I think people across the world can be of like, I think if anything, they're just happy that people are willing to come and experience another place and another culture. And patience is actually given a lot more than not. Well, a big part of your mission, Dianne, is helping people learn from communities outside the West, just like we were talking about. So what does it practically look like to travel in a way that prioritizes listening and learning from others? So maybe you can kind of talk about like, what does a trip look like? How are you learning from those other people on the ground?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. And it's honestly something that I've learned over the years. So I started Travel on Purpose about 5 years ago. So it's a newish venture. I have a background in education and travel writing and nonprofit work. And so this is kind of the culmination of this,
Great.
kind of second half of my life. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that when I first started, I anticipated that I was going to design a trip and build the trip. And then we were going to, put all the pieces in place. And then we're going to go and have this experience. And something that I have learned over the process of these years is that we have to involve the local voices very early on in the process. Otherwise, the result is completely different. Because if the goal is to go and to learn and to let our hearts be broken open with compassion, to understand the complexities of a place's history and whatever social injustices they face and all the different things that we can do. Yes, let's go learn the beauty, but let's learn all of it. Let's understand a destination in all the ways that we can. Then we can't really do that without involving local voices from the beginning. So, I mean, this has not just been a recent development. This has been something we've been doing for the past few years now. But when I get ready to build a trip, I reach out to our local partners first, and we start to imagine what that trip will look like. Some of our destinations, I'll just give you an example. One of our first destinations that is one of the places we continue to go back to again and again is Guatemala. It was our very first women's tour in 2021 to Guatemala. And that trip has really evolved into something that's quite beautiful that I'm really proud of today. And it's really built on so many relationships and partnerships. And I think of everyone from Anita, a wonderful Guatemalan woman who lives in a village in the highlands who offers a cooking class for her Mayan culture. And she invites us into her home. And she takes us to the market. So we get to experience what it's like to go to a traditional market where you don't really see other tourists, but this is where the local people come to get their groceries each day. And to be able to go through and learn about maybe some produce we've never seen before, to understand the supply chain, to understand challenges that exist there, but then to go back to her house and to then cook up some of these recipes. And not only that, but also to hear the history of the recipes with her family.
That's amazing.
So Anita is somebody who has found great success in this area. She's like #1 on TripAdvisor.
Wow.
She's over the years, she's really built up a business for herself.
Incredible.
And she has paid it forward. So she has realized that this gift that she's been given, she has to pay it forward for others who are less advantaged in her community. And so she started a cooperative for a group of women who are single mothers, and they get together and they do the weaving with the backstrap loom, the very traditional Guatemalan weaving. And so back to the question of letting local leaders lead, talking with Anita about, we would love to come and spend a day with you. And instead of me saying, this is what I want, this is when we're gonna arrive, this is what we want to do, that would be the wrong approach for me. The right approach for me and for my guests who are gonna go and travel with me is to say, Anita, we want to come and spend a day with you. And what would you like us to learn about your community and about your culture and about your own personal history and your family? And and about the women you're serving, and how do you want that to look, and what do you want us to walk away with when we're done with the experience that day? And I find that that brings such a richer experience, not just for us, but also for her.
Yes.
Realizing that we are just two women. We care about a lot of the same things. We're both building our businesses.
Yeah.
And I care about her, and I know she cares about me. And those are the kind of relationships that I'm so privileged to have. And I can think of those types of relationships that I have across about a dozen countries now. So I love it. And they are the best teachers for their places where they live, where they've lived their whole lives, and they understand so much more than we do. So let them lead the way.
Yes. I think there's a difference between learning culture and experiencing culture. And I think that you're doing a good example of including both in these trips, but more heavily leaning on the learning, because that's what you're going to take home. I'm sure you'll mention this later on, but your goal is to not have these women stop desiring to learn about culture when they get home, but how can they be influenced to continue to make a difference for people across the world when they get home? That's the thing that you want to get them home with.
Absolutely, because these trips are fun. They're memorable, they're all the things. But if at the end of the day, all we've done is entertained ourselves, if there's no result that is tangible and makes the world a better place, then I'm not sure they're worth our time and our resources. So I think that's very important.
Travel on Purpose emphasizes that locals are the experts. How do you build trips that protect that posture? So you talked about Anita and how you're desiring to have her kind of lead that experience. But I know that you're working with these people on the ground as you're planning the trips throughout the year. You're cultivating those relationships even when you're not planning to travel there. So what are some other ways that you hope to continue those relationships and have people lead in that way?
They really feel like friendships, and they really do carry on all year, because in addition to the trips that we plan, because obviously we don't, I may only see Anita once a year, but there are all kinds of ways to help support, to help encourage, and also to help point people, toward the good work that's being done all over the world. So I'm very open with sharing contacts, so I was just recently with a woman who was traveling with me she was with me in Sri Lanka, and she was telling me that she's going to Uganda. And, did I have any, tips for her? And I said, yeah, let me send you some contacts. So let me send you, the Ugandan guy that always is our ground handler and who helps us, manage transportation stuff. He would love to, help organize your trip. And I don't need to have a piece in that. Right. We work with a lot of artisan partners around the world. And so if there are different times during the year that we can help elevate their work and help get the story of their good work out, we want to do that. We have a Saturday email that we send every week.
I was just going to talk about that. The pouch that you just put out in your newsletter, that's an artisan product.
It is. Yes, it is. And so it's like we want to shine a light on good work. It's encouraging also, especially in a world today where there just is so much darkness and so much hurt. Let's talk about some of the really amazing people around the world that are making a difference, change makers. Let's talk about, people who are being empowered and lifted out of poverty through social media, through our Saturday email, through occasional sales that we'll do to highlight, artisan partners. There's all kinds of ways and constantly connecting. I get up in the morning, and because that, the other half of the world is 8, 9, 10 hours ahead of us, my WhatsApp is lit up. Every morning I'm communicating with people from Morocco and Kenya and India. And it's really fun. And honestly, I feel very, very humbled that I get to be a small part of their world. And I appreciate each of these people so much. And I will say it spans a really wide range of things. It's everything from tour operators, so local tour operators. We're not working with any of the big companies because, again, we want to keep money in the local economy. So these are small, we call them DMCs in the travel industry, a destination management company, but these are small companies that are just a couple of people, and they've got their little fleet of vehicles or whatever, and they help run our ground transportations in country. We work with these small hotels. We work with our do-good partners are everything from nonprofits to, we've got schools and social impact businesses that are employing artisans and skills training and and everything in between, restaurants and culinary training programs. And there's something called community-based tourism, which is also a really important piece of all of this. A community-based tourism is an experience that a local person puts together and they have this in their home or in their community.
Interesting.
And, sometimes you can find these things on Airbnb experiences.
Oh, okay.
But it's basically an opportunity to learn from local people. And it's a wonderful way of connecting a traveler directly with a service provider. So an example of that, again, I'll take us back to Guatemala. There's a coffee farming family, 3 generations of coffee farmers living together under one roof.
That's crazy.
And they have their home, they have their coffee farm, and spending a day with them means learning about coffee from the seed all the way to the cup. And what's the process look like? We actually participate in a hands-on experience.
Amazing.
Drink coffee with them, sit with the family around the table, have a lunch together. And that's community-based tourism. And this is also an important thing especially for people working in agriculture where they don't have the steady income stream all year long. And so offering a community-based tourism experience helps them offset their expenses
on the
throughout
off
the year.
seasons. Yeah.
Exactly. So
that totally makes sense.
Lots of things, lots of ways
interesting.
to support local. And I often get the question, how do you select the nonprofits that you decide to work with? And I have to say it's really based on relationship.
Sure.
So I'm never going to just Google an organization in a place because I need one. In fact, I recently got a request for a trip to Thailand. And I was like, well, that's great, but we don't have a partner in Thailand. So maybe someday, we'll go that direction. But with every destination that we have, it's always started with a do-good partnership.
Sure.
And that partnership is built out of relationship.
Yeah.
And so understanding the work they do, that transparency, knowing that people on the ground have vouched for the authenticity of their work is really, really important. So I put forth these organizations with a great deal of
it's important to you.
Yeah, it is important to me, and I don't wonder if they're doing. I really feel confident.
Yeah.
That they are doing good work. And so that's first of all, that's really important. And as far as generosity with dignity, something that we've come to know, I think we all have come to know, is that the best type of generosity is that empowers people. So instead of handouts, instead of things that keep people in a perpetual cycle of I'm the person in need and you're the person who has what I need. Instead, we want to be looking for initiatives to support that are actually empowering people because they have skills.
Yes.
They have ability. Often what they lack is opportunity. So what kind of organizations are out there? And I love education as a great example because education does have the power to break generational cycles of poverty.
Definitely.
And the artisan partnerships are also super important because what people need are jobs. And so if they can learn a trade and they can provide a benefit to their community in this way, then it helps them earn an income. And there's lots and lots of examples of that. But those are our favorite ways of empowering local people to look for dignified ways of bringing opportunity. And we're not bringing the opportunity.
Yeah.
we are partnering with those who are already present in those communities who are doing this good work.
Yes.
And we're just coming alongside as learners, ready to contribute in ways that they determine are meaningful. Again, we're not walking in with our agenda and saying, here we are. We're ready to help. And
We know
here's
better than you.
Exactly. Here's how we are going to help. No, It's like, here we are to learn and let us know, are there ways that we can help? And
definitely.
And there's lots of different ways to do that.
Yes. That's like a perfect summation of, again, my hope for this series is how can we view others as just as capable of someone in the West.
Right.
Like correcting that understanding is so important to me. And I think that you guys are doing a great job of modeling that.
It's very important because if all you do to come to your conclusions about why we have what we have and why others don't have what they have is because, you look around and you see, oh, well, our success or things are going well or whatever, then you're missing the whole point. Because really people who are struggling all over the world, it's because they have been oppressed and exploited by somebody else. And it's a false narrative if we look at that and we say that you're in a position that's different than mine because you didn't work as hard as I did, or it's we won the birth lottery, and we are very privileged to have what we have and the opportunities we have. And even for girls around the world, girls are faced with unbelievable injustices all over the world, from lack of the ability to have education or agency over their own bodies, and this is something that we don't even have to think about. Again, it's really important that we change our perspectives, and travel allows us to do that. Because when we go and we sit and listen, we learn so much more. And it's hard when you first show up in a place that is very different from where you come from. It's hard to take off your lenses of your whole worldview, your perspective on how life works, and to learn something new. Travel is the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And one more thing I will add is how fun it is to see the relationships amongst, like, you're talking about the relationships with your global partners, but in just doing this season, I've seen relationships between global partners with each other. Like, I found out that one of my guests knows another one of my guests, just because of the industry that they're in. They're in global artisan products. And so they have similar vendors, they have similar businesses that they work with too. And so seeing their relationship together is also so special because they're similar. Like they're in the same field, just like we would have a connection with Esta. They have a connection with somebody else. And so it's so fun to see also their relationships with each other and what they gain from each other as well in that industry. I'm sure they find it comforting to say, like, I'm going through this. I need help from someone not in the West, but who can I reach out to that's going through maybe a similar cultural or like trade issue. I'm sure that's so helpful for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that makes me think of a woman I was just with in Sri Lanka. She is such a dear, and she has a small hotel, and she saw a need in her community. It's in a fishing village, and a lot of the women in the village, their husbands and fathers and brothers are the fishermen, but the women don't have work.
Okay.
And so she started a small little workshop in the back of the hotel where they're actually making the bed coverings and the lampshades and cards and art and robes. I mean, all kinds of wonderful things. And they're using them there at the hotel, and they're also have a small gift shop where they're selling these things. But she's trying to figure out how to go to the next step. If she wants to continue to grow and provide opportunities for these women, she's going to have to continue to grow. And so I have the treat, the rare opportunity of saying, I know who to connect you to because I've seen other people that are maybe 1, 2, 3, or 10 steps down the road from where you're at. And so there is so much power in connection. We can learn so much from each other.
Definitely. Well, speaking of generosity, Travel on Purpose donates 100% of profits to nonprofit partners. So why did you choose that model, and what kind of impact have you seen both for the organization and for the travelers, since they know that going into these trips as well?
Yeah. So, when I started 5 years ago, I had just stopped working, and I turned 50 that year, and I was like, okay, what's next for me? And kind of dreaming about, what might be next. And I have to say that Travel on Purpose is a passion project.
Okay.
It's, I wasn't looking for the next job, I was looking for something purposeful. And I am very fortunate to be in a position where I don't have to, put food on the table.
Sure.
Something my husband has always told our boys is, what are you good at? What are you passionate about? How are you going to use that for good in the world? And so I just thought, passionate about travel. I'm passionate about connecting people. I've got an idea. Let's see if it'll work. And, once all the bills are paid, and there's bills, with having a business, but once all the bills are paid, I want to be able to be as generous as possible and give everything else away. And so that's what we do. And as far as our trips go, every trip has a profit margin, and they're not all exactly the same because, for a variety of reasons, but every trip has a profit margin. And so what a joy it is to be able to, when the trip comes to a close, the book's closed, to say, okay, this was the profit margin on this trip, and we get to give it away. Wow. And so our organizations that we just spent time with, get to be the recipients of that. And, and then also sometimes we hold some of it back, and we may use it for, let's say, a need that we're aware of, that one of our partners from another country, maybe a country that we won't be visiting that year, has need for. And I think that our travelers enjoy knowing that their trip, just by signing up for a trip and going on a trip, they're doing good.
Yeah.
They don't need to give a penny on the trip because they already have through signing up and going. Now, of course, if they see something that they want to get involved in, and they want to further fund some need that they see, of course, that opportunity is available to them. And sometimes people do, sometimes they don't. There's no expectation.
Sure.
But it's just a cycle of generosity, honestly. Generosity breeds more generosity. And I find that people come together just excited about making the world a better place.
Yeah. What an amazing mission. I mean, who could have thought it'd be so easy to impact lives and be able to experience something amazing, learn for yourself, but then also know, like, I did something really good. I mean, again, like, that's hopefully the kickstart into being like, yes, let's keep doing good things. Yeah. But if that's the first step in someone who's never done something like that before, how easy is it to be like, I just did something really good and I learned something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great opportunity for everyone involved.
It is.
So Dianne, I will say that when I first traveled to Thailand and Kenya and Egypt for work, something that I really wanted to do was see the pyramids, as everyone does when they go to Egypt. The obvious thing is, well, you got to see the pyramids, right? But that was not something that stuck with me in the end. It was my first time in Egypt. There were a lot of changes that I had that were so different from the States, that the pyramids kind of ended up being the lower memory in my mind, just because I was meeting all these amazing people that were part of the conference that I was working with. So you've talked a lot about how Travel on Purpose is kind of for the people. So how do you kind of hope to distinguish the tourist experience from the people experience? How do you kind of navigate that?
Well, we have both. And I think what draws people into a trip are the bucket list, items. People sign up for our India trip because of the Taj Mahal. Yeah. Or, in Guatemala, you can actually get face-to-face with a live volcano, or, hike to call it sunrise. I mean, these epic experiences. But what people walk away with is the relationship and the stories. And so we like to say that Travel on Purpose is people focused. And, and back to the India experience, I know that the first time I went to India, the thing that stuck with me the most through the whole entire trip was the thing that I continue to hear over and over again, sticks with our travelers as well. And that is the opportunity to just sit with a woman in her home. She teaches us how to make marsala chai tea, and we sit in her bedroom and she shares her story with us. Wow. And that ability to connect women to women and to realize that we have so much more in common than we ever realized, that we care about the same things. We care about our kids and our community. And it dispels this them and us, me and them, and instead it's us, this collective humanity. And so anyway, those are the most beautiful parts of a Travel on Purpose trip. It's the memories that you take home. Of course, the gorilla trekking is epic, and all of it. It's amazing. But really, truly, what sticks with you the longest are the relationships and the people you meet.
tourism is a very important part to making an economy work, especially outside of the States. So can you talk about that too? Because I know you're saying it's both people and the experience itself. So how do you think the tourism part kind of plays into the importance of keeping an economy going? I think you said it's like an engine to the economy.
Well, it is. And many, many places around the globe rely on tourism.
Yeah.
People at all different levels of work are helping tourism happen. Everything from laundry to restaurants to managing tours and things like that. Hospitality, hotels. There's so many things. But in order for every level of society to see that benefit, it has to be done well. And so we can't just imagine that by going to some place, we're actually contributing to ethical tourism, because we are not. It's really important that we are careful so that we don't cause any exploitation. We can accidentally cause harm, actually, by not being careful about where we stay, who we hire. There's a lot of exploitation that happens even in the tourism industry. But I think one of the most exciting examples that I've seen recently of how tourism is an engine for community development is in Sri Lanka. About 7-8 years ago, USAID started a project called the Paco Trail, and it's a hiking trail that combines, it's a point-to-point hike that combines all of the tea trails. So the Ceylon tea is grown in Sri Lanka, and the people there are very marginalized. They were brought over by the British to work the tea fields. They still are marginalized. They still have very difficult lives, earn a very meager living. And these communities are so impoverished. The idea was that if we could build a place where hikers, visitors to our country would want to come through and hike, it could be something to help boost the local economy. And so getting to see this firsthand was really remarkable, because it's not one nonprofit, it's a number of initiatives working together. And it's everything from paying the park fees, hikers paying the park fees. Those hiking fees go back into the local communities. People who live in those communities are helping to maintain the trails. We stopped at one woman's house. Her name was Pushpaka, and she has a little snack shop where her house is right on the path where the hikers walk by, and she serves tea and small snacks. Her husband is disabled, and this has meant everything for her. And so she went through an incubator program that taught her how to grow her small business. And there's countless examples, homestays and all kinds of things. But it's a beautiful example of how tourism, when done well and when done with intention, does have the power to change lives. And so that's the tourism that we want to be in. We want to bring people to experience these types of things, and they're happening all over the place. And so we have to seek them out and encourage others to do the same.
Yeah, and like you were talking about too, I think that kind of brings back the importance of the relational aspect of your contacts globally, because you're able to say like, hey, I want to do this. Who could you suggest? Or what do you think about this person? And then someone else could either say, yeah, that's a great person to go to, or, I haven't heard good things about them. So I'm sure that's really helpful too when you're trying to ethically do these tourist experiences, making sure that they stay safe for everybody involved.
Right. Yeah. I did have a few months ago, I had somebody reach out to me who said, we're going to Kenya, and I Google searched an orphanage that was near the safari lodge we're staying at, and we're going to go visit. And I said, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
I said, you would do better to reach out to the safari lodge, because, they're the ones who live there and work there. And, Kenyans are running that lodge, and find out from them who in their community is doing good work, and find out if there's a way for you to come alongside.
Yes.
We can't be ignorant, because then we perpetuate cycles of harm, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah. I think something that's pretty common actually when I'll think of like a tourist experience of being careful. I know when I first went to Thailand, something I really wanted to do was going to an elephant sanctuary. And I think that animal sanctuaries are very
You have to be careful.
sketchy. Yeah, they can be really sketchy. And so that was something even my boss was like, we can, but we have to make sure that we go to one that's ethical for the animals. And so similar to you want to make sure that the people are protected and even just animals in their space too are protected.
And in that kind of a situation, because we have those in a number of places we go to, the defining question to ask yourself is, what are the animals being asked to do? And are they doing it for the sake of the tourist?
Yeah.
If they're doing it for the sake of the tourist, then it's not in their best interest.
Yeah.
And that is not a good organization to support. There's a refuge that we visit in India outside of Jaipur, and they actually only have 2 elephants, but they rescued them from, being, doing weddings where they're painted and letting people ride up to the fort in extreme heat conditions and all of that. And basically, they now have a free place to roam. And what going to visit them looks like is arriving at the time that they naturally eat anyway. And we can participate in feeding them and giving them water, and then going on a forest walk with them, because that's what they do every day anyway. And we don't get involved in bathing them or anything like that, because that's actually more for the tourist than it is for the elephant.
Animal.
So it really needs to be about the animal and not about the tourist.
Yeah, that's a really good tip for people who are even just planning their own trip. So that's super helpful. Thank you. So kind of moving on here, what's one moment that you've witnessed either in a traveler or in yourself where a trip kind of reshaped someone's worldview long after they got home? We kind of teased this earlier, but I'd love if you could give an example of someone that was impacted and it kept going even when they returned home.
Yeah, I love that because it gives my work meaning and purpose. And I have to say, I don't have an agenda and there's not a formula. I really feel like as, the curator, I feel like I'm setting a table. I'm creating an experience, of course, with our partners, and, people come. And if they come with an open heart, with open hands to experience whatever the journey has for them, then the results can be quite wide and varied.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've experienced everything from people feeling so inspired to return home and live differently. One of the things that we don't have as much as other cultures around the world have is a deep sense of community.
Yes.
We have lost that.
Yes.
Our culture's in too much of a rush and too much agenda driven and on our technology. And so one of the things that we learn when we travel is that other places around the world are so connected to their neighbors, to their communities in ways that they really rely on one another and they draw on strength from one another. And so I've had people return home and say, as a result of this experience, I know that I have to get to know my neighbors better. I have to be more available. I have an elderly neighbor down the street and I know she could use some help. And it's like, those are small ways that are pretty easy to incorporate, but they change our communities and they can change our world. And so I think that that's just really been a sweet one. Another one has been oftentimes because we're spending time in these artisan communities and we're seeing how products make their way around the world. And we begin to realize that the world is smaller than we think it is. When we are at home and we live in a bubble, it feels like there's these places far, far away. And what I do here doesn't affect anybody anywhere else. And then we go and we learn. I think about Jaipur, India, where a lot of the fabrics and textiles come from. But then we've got exploitation and slavery and sweatshops. There's, and fast fashion is ruining our planet and it's ruining people's lives. And, to run out to get the latest thing and to wear it for one season and then throw it away. We have to realize that things like that, we may think it's our freedom to do that, but actually our freedom is somebody else's slavery, somebody else's exploitation. And so Very often on the trips that we have that center around artisan workshops and supply chains and all of those things we talk about, even the coffee. We talk about all
it's a great
kinds of
example.
products and how interconnected our world is, and that the decisions that we make do affect others.
They matter.
People do go home very often with an intention to be more thoughtful consumers.
Well, you kind of are already talking about some practical steps for people to make when they're planning their own trips. But for someone who's listening, who feels inspired but thinks, I don't have the money to travel right now, what are 3 ways where they can begin practicing the heart of travel on purpose? So that's global education, humility, and generosity right where they live and in their own backyard.
Okay, I love this question. Okay, let's see. So number 1, find your deep gladness and pursue it. There's a quote I love, a guy named Frederick Buechner, and it goes like this: "The place God calls you is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet." And what I love about that is that it's just a reminder that every single person has something important to bring. We were created with a skill, a passion, an ability, eyes to see something unique, whatever it is. And so whatever you have, pursue it, because that's really what a lot of these trips are about. And you can do that wherever you're at and in whatever season you're at. I understand that, some seasons of life can feel very small, and that's okay, because even in that season, you can find that purpose. The second one is that people matter and to love big. We talked earlier about the importance of community, and however that looks and wherever you live, I think you can cultivate that community right where you're at. I'm reading Theo of Golden right now. Have you read it?
No, but it looked like an amazing book.
It's such a good book. And it's just a reminder that we were built for one another, and everyone needs each other. We can't live in isolation. And so just people matter and love big. It's the only thing that will make a difference.
And before you go on, that book is a part of your book club experience that you have, right? Can you tell us just a little bit about that first before we go on to the third thing?
Well, that's a very convenient segue, because that is my third thing.
Oh, perfect. Great.
So if you can't travel or you don't want to travel, there's also that. Some people don't want to travel.
And some people just can't physically.
Right.
It's too hard.
I would recommend that any listener, please join the book club. Our book club is a way to have a travel experience without actually traveling. We are heading to Romania next, and it's an opportunity to read a book about a destination. It's an opportunity to hear local voices. We always partner with a do-good organization. We have a gift box with curated items from that country. And so it's a travel experience without the travel. And it's a wonderful way to learn, build community, and to also give back.
3 great reasons for people to travel in some sort of way. Thank you so much for telling us about those 3 things. And lastly, if someone is interested in going on one of these trips, how can they get involved? What's the best way to do that?
I would say visit our website, which is travelonpurpose.com. It's Travel on Purpose, and it's TOP is T-O-P is the acronym. So travelonpurpose.com, or you can find me on Instagram, Travel on Purpose.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I will put more information in the description box in case anybody's interested. Dianne, this has been such a blast and a pleasure to learn from you as someone who travels globally myself. I'm thankful for these tips and how I can kind of go into my next travel experience with a heart for other people, and how can I take those experiences and help others. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been really fun.
I agree. And thank you all for joining us on this conversation with Dianne Sivulka. I hope this episode encourages you to choose one way to practice traveling on purpose, maybe without even leaving your city, like being in the book club, like Dianne said. Learn the story of a culture you don't belong to through a memoir, a documentary, or a local event. spend your money intentionally at a small business owned by someone from a different background, or even support a vetted organization doing work that you care about, not out of burden, but out of partnership and respect. And if this episode stirred something in you, if you're ready for the kind of travel that forms you, connects you, and gives back, check out Travel on Purpose to learn more about their trips and the organizations that they support. Again, you can find more information about it in the description below. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tune in next time as we continue to explore the lives of remarkable women. Until then, you are worth far more than rubies. Set about your work vigorously with arms strong for your tasks, open your arms to the poor, and extend your hands to the needy. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised.